with the Lessons Learned podcast, and we have video. If it slows down a little bit, it's because we are using software encoding as opposed to hardware encoding. So hopefully everything will be fine. But here we are. So hi everybody. After 2 or so weeks of trying to get a podcast together, here we are. Hi and welcome to the podcast. I hope everybody's doing okay. Tap on myself, and today we're going to be talking about none other than our favorite company, as always, BioWare. In this case, Anthem. And the question is, should BioWare do this to Anthem and just get it over with? Because yeah, it's time. I think it's time for it to just let it go, and hopefully we won't have a problem. But besides that, we have a lot of news to talk about. So let's get started. Yeah, let's get started with the news. First piece of news we come from PC Gamer. Activision Blizzard games have been pulled from GeForce Now at Activision's request, according to PC Gamer. Writer. Oh, by the way, I'm going to try to give as much credit to as many people as possible. And because as Jim Sterling, friend of the program, has reminded us, you should always try to give credit to people where credit is due. So this was done by John Prescott 17 hours ago, as of Wednesday, February the 12th. NVIDIA GeForce Now made a big splash last week. The game streaming service is giving Google Stadia a serious run for its money, and the value stakes and some of its features are fantastic. But it will happen to cherish the platform collection of Activision and Blizzard titles, you're out of luck. They mean rather unceremoniously remove. As we take GeForce Now to the next step in evolution, we'll work with the publisher on board. New games, occasion having been similar. Basically, this is from the people at GeForce. As we take GeForce Now to the next step in evolution, we'll work with publishers on board to onboard a robust catalog of PC games. The spokesperson said that means continually adding new games and occasionally having to remove games, similar to other digital service providers. I guess, I mean, supposedly this was a competition, as the article means, to Stadia, and Stadia is not doing very well. But at the same time, hey, what's the problem with digital only games that are on streaming? Just like any streaming services, you can have it today and be gone tomorrow. So yeah, wonderful news.
So is there? I can only think of the reason either they have an exclusivity. Well, no, they couldn't have, because I'm thinking of Destiny 2. Unless I'm thinking maybe Activision had an exclusivity deal with GeForce to kind of limit their games there, because they have BattleNet. So
yeah.
But then of course they kind of got divorced with Bungie. So, but even then, I think even if they had gotten divorced by Bungie, they still would have had to honor any kind of pre-contractual obligations.
Pretty much.
Which is probably why we see that it's still there on Stadia. So I don't know. Like that's the only thing I can think of. It's like, why? Either they're gonna focus on their own launcher, or just gonna try to limit their exclusivity, or they have an exclusivity deal with Google.
Probably. But yeah, I mean, that's the thing. It's like, because that's the thing about streaming, it's more like a TV channel, right? It's not I buy the game and I play it. It's I buy the game, but it's only available. I mean, one thing about having a subscription service is you get whatever you want. It's like you pay a low amount of money, that's fine. But I mean, that's one of the things we're seeing with sort of streaming services and TV. Now they've gone back to the cable model, where everybody has their own streaming service. So now you pay $5 for one service for Disney, another 5 or 10 or 15 for CBS, HBO. So at the end of the day, you're paying as much or more for a fragmented experience. One of the cool things about having just a handful of them, like Hulu and Netflix, was that you had Netflix and you had a great variety of shows.
Yep.
So it was worth it, right? In essence, it was cheaper, right? $15 was what you pay for internet, was cheaper than having paid to internet and cable when you don't watch the majority of things on cable and commercials and all that. Now it's like we're back at it again.
I kind of wonder if it's, I mean, is it the old Vanguard that kind of creeped into the new business model, or is it the new business model that kind of creeped back into the model of the old Vanguard of cable?
I think it's more of just a natural fragmentation. Once a business model is established, everybody wants a piece of the pie. And by definition, everybody wants to have control of what they have. So it's like, I want a piece of this. I mean, we started seeing this with launchers as well. It didn't work out so well because Steam was so dominant. They tried it and failed. But they're gonna try it every single time, right? It's gonna keep on happening. Which is, yeah. Whether it works or not for streaming services. Again, that's the thing. Ironically, we talk about high tech and how video games and all about the leading edge, but often this market is also very conservative in what people are willing to do and take, right? So, yeah. Talking about streaming services, I think I have some news about how we're going to talk about this last week, but I think it's worth talking about it. Xbox AI finishes games. Let me see. Okay, this is I saw a different. But we're reading from Critical Hit Gaming, an article by Darren Bonthews. Xbox Series X games could have smaller download sizes thanks to new AI technology. You have total today's fiber at the home computer connection. Yesterday's total site for many AAA games. You have the latest title, etc. The idea is, according to this article, is that Microsoft is experimenting with sort of a half step to this, where essentially the file that gets sent of the game has low res textures, and the Xbox One X, box whatever they call it, Xbox Series X now. There's so many X's in that. Will high res it on the go, like where you use AI technology to high res old pictures and movies.
Yeah, we touched it. I remember we talked about that last year about a new AI program that can change. They can better enlarge pictures to make it high res instead of all pixely and ugly. So that's interesting. I thought when you first said like AI's finishing games, like AIs can play video games and finish them for you.
Probably. I mean, yeah, I get that as well, but yeah.
But yeah, no, now I understand. Like actually finish the developing the game, or maybe even like render the game.
Yeah, basically they render the game, right? You send a file, say with lower polygons, but has the higher polygon markers. I suppose that's what they have to put it. If it's just low polygons without any software markers, is the best way to put it, because basically it depends on the programming language, and this is all PC based. So, I mean, I'm reteaching myself CSS, which is nothing to do with this, not about gaming, but programming to a degree. Style sheet, cascading style sheet. So different terms for different pieces of software, but essentially you have a low res image sent, which of course means less pixels and less bandwidth and all that. But you say, okay, but this image can be scaled up to say 4K or 8K, right? And the AI sees that and says, oh, these are the missing pixels and missing information, I can guess from the raw data to remake the whole thing. The key to this is that, and why it's linked to what we're talking about before, sort of half step, is that it does supposed to do it in real time, right? So as the game is downloading, it's supposed to be doing it. And now many consoles have like preview, like play as you download. So would it work with that, or will it work that you in the preview you play the low res, it's downloaded, the AI reworks it, and then you get to play the game?
I mean, this seems sort of just like that next step into like file compression is what this is sounding like. It's a new zip like zip file format almost, except that you need like a more sophisticated software to unzip it essentially.
Yeah, to fill in the missing pieces. Like looking at a puzzle and say, okay, I can still make the picture. But it's not only completing the picture, it's also high-resing it so that, and do something across the board. And considering how big games had gotten and how many textures and moving parts and all that, it might work well in tests, but will it work on many games? Or will we see more games breaking because the AI always misses something and it's an important texture, and then all of a sudden the character disappears or gets blended into the background, or one part of a building has like a very low poly count and the rest looks great? And if you go around the game, it's like, oh no, wait a minute, I'm supposed to be, and will the AI ignores it, but will the rest of the OS ignore it as it runs the game and goes like, oh, wait a minute, this is supposed to be loading at a much higher rate, and then crashes. So yeah, I mean, sounds promising. And how fast will the AI work? Because okay, you download let's say that it's supposed to be done real time, but since you're not playing in real time, you wouldn't be able to. You download the thing. That means every single time, if it's real time, every time you play the game, the AI has to apply it and do it as you play it.
Unless of course, it starts eating up your hard drive space, like it decrypts and just saves the.
Yeah, because it's remaking the game, and so it takes like unzipping a file, it just becomes much bigger, balloons. And or does it entirely in your machine, which means instead of saying, oh, downloading, it says processing. And it basically takes the same amount of time or a similar amount of time where, oh, you downloaded something that it could have taken 3 hours, now it takes about half an hour, where you spend another hour and a half decoding it. Like, well, where's the savings, right? It's supposed to be faster, but we'll see. I think it's also one of those things is like, oh, it's also something that ultimately either will go unnoticed. It's supposed to be a selling point, but people are not really gonna care about it. Because again, if you cannot, if the downloading time and time to play is not significantly shorter than just downloading the thing as is, then I think the only thing that it would matter, the only real advantage would be server congestion. That's the word. Congestion at the server side. In other words, more people will be able to download the game with less delays, especially when it launches. So I think that's the only real advantage, right? Because you're sending smaller packets down the line, series of tubes and all that. If say 100,000 people, 1 million people, or 5 million people try to download from your server, the congestion is less, so more people can download. So from the point of view of accessibility, that actually might be the actual benefit. That for the developers, like, well, we actually make a simpler game, which can be a bit cheaper, because we literally don't have to make the game high res. It's a sort of a version of cloud computing, but it's not in the cloud. It's almost a reverse. And it's like, it used to be your program was here and it would go to the cloud to get that high brain power. Now you're sending it from the cloud down to your computer now, or Xbox Tower, whatever the hell it is nowadays, and it will do the thinking,
Xbox
right?
One X,
X1
Series
Series,
X.
X1 something other, and it will do the thinking, right? Kind of reminds me of Sega. It's thinking. Oh wow, yeah. What goes around comes around goes around. I think that's the only real benefit in that you can actually by creating cheaper games essentially, and let the AI do the thinking. Right? You create it's simpler, cheaper, less congestion, which means that people won't like be locked out of servers. More people will be able to access a server. But again, if you don't have a true, if it leads to more bugs, or if it leads to equal or even greater processing times, then it's like, at least in the consumer side, it won't really matter. That's my take on it. Correct me if I'm wrong, AI experts, please. Briefly, this just came out of Twitter, but it will lead to this other news. Jeff Keighley, I always mess up the last name.
Jeff Keighley.
Jeff Keighley will not be going to E3 this year, E3 2020. But we do have a leaked list of E3 exhibitors from PC Gamer. Among them, of course, Activision, Amazon, Bandai Namco, Bethesda, Capcom, Epic Games, Calypso Media Group, NCSoft, Sega, Square Enix, Take-Two Interactive, Tencent. And interesting that Tencent has its own, well, I guess because they do a lot of mobile games on their own. THQ Nordic, I'm looking forward to because they have some cool IPs that they bought or bought back. Ubisoft, of course. Unnamed VR by Paris Coma. Warner Brothers Interactive Entertainment, and Exceed Games.
Let's see. I seem to notice a thing that's missing off of those lists.
Nintendo and also Sony. Microsoft says that it will be there going as well. It will be a milestone year for Team Xbox. That's very interesting. That Sony and Nintendo, I think another article I saw said that they didn't feel that Xbox and Microsoft and Sony were competition, which is kind of makes sense because they're Nintendo has been playing by their own rules for now nearly 2 decades, ever since Sega stopped being its direct competitor. But yes, this is kind of a small list. I mean, it could be more people.
Then they're all pretty much just like publishers, maybe some developers. It's not really a whole list of consoles.
Even though consoles 2020 is going to be the year of the new console, so
are like Nvidia isn't there. I assume they're there in some way.
No, NCSoft, but not Nvidia. No. Amazon Game Studios. So yeah, not Google either. Also interesting with Stadia already out.
You would think they'd be there, like promoting. Hey, look, Google Stadia.
I don't probably 2021 might be the last year we hear about Stadia. Who knows? And a little note. I love this. A little note from the Fraser Brown, who wrote the article. Attendees to this year might also be a bit concerned with security. In August, it came to light that the ESA, which organizes E3, leaked the personal information of 2,000 industry professionals, to include home phone numbers and addresses. So perhaps Sony's going like, yeah, we don't. No, we have enough shit on the internet to deal with. We don't want that. So there's that. Talking about Nintendo, Nintendo says that coronavirus won't impact Switch sales in North America and Europe. It's a Nintendo. This is from Kotaku. I know a lot of people complain about Kotaku, but Brian Ashcraft from Kotaku does deliver some interesting news. Nintendo announced the Switch production shipment to Japan from China will be impacted by Oh, it says that the production will be impacted, but sales and shipments won't be delayed. Okay, that's.
It doesn't make sense if I guess if they're saying that they're their supply will be down, but their demand will still be high.
I guess
Maybe.
they already have a backlog. So we can confirm that manufacture some Nintendo products for the Japanese market has been delayed due to the impact of 2919 NCOV coronavirus outbreak. Nintendo does not anticipate significant impact on our broader global supply chain for systems storage at this time, and product sales in North America and Europe, including pre-orders, are not affected. We would like to express our concern and support for all those affected by coronavirus during the time. I guess they expect future delays, but at present they have enough stock that they can fulfill all the, and they're hoping that by the time you know you know things, there's a slowdown, they'll probably deliver enough units to calm the tempest.
Yeah, it's actually I was going to bring up, like, I'm wondering if coronavirus, which I guess has been this outbreak's being called COVID-19, is if it's going to impact E3 this year. At least scares, but it might get worse in future. Hopefully not. But oh yeah, I have to agree with you. They either have a back catalog of, or at least a bunch of unsold units that are still sitting in a warehouse that need to be shipped out.
Yeah. Or they basically, and that could happen. Remember, they had sort of problems delivering the units fast enough the first time around, and which is Nintendo seems to be a ever expanding problem with them. Every time they have a new product, they always have a shortage. But this time around, it's like they just kept pumping in, and they have a back catalog, which and they believe that they're going to keep on selling. So again, they're not in a panic mode. Talking about Nintendo, Fire Emblem Three Houses is being demade to look more like the older games. This is from Luke Plunkett. Know that I love about Three Houses. A lot of the game's 3D visuals and the original Three Houses, from the monastery to the battle mode, look like ass. Something this ambitious mod project is looking to. FE, this is a mod. Three House GB remake is an attempt to entirely make the game with retro pixel art, more in keeping with the early games in the series. You can see it in action, and this progress up below includes everything wandering around Eric Mack to the classroom to combat scene. Oh, this is a mod. This is a fan, and answering the natural question, if you're wondering how a fan project could be able to include all three branching storylines, the answer is that they did not. They're keeping things manageable. Only the Blue Lions arc will be featured, which are as the Golden Deer upsets me, but I guess I will. For anyone wondering about the future props of a project like this, the fans working on it are doing so behind closed doors, so there's nothing playable or public for Nintendo to shut down until they're done. Smart. So this is a mod, but we all know how Nintendo feels about
mods or any fan-made video game project
that they cannot monetize directly. Ubisoft reveals a surprise Division 2 expansion, Warlords of New York, that is designed to revive the game. I included this news because, again, games, looter shooter / MMOs are in the news with what happened with BioWare, and apparently BioWare is not the only company designed to keep their massive games alive. Makers of Division 2 have waited for nearly the last possible moment to their frustrated players face a heap of potential good news. After spending weeks failing to announce a release date for an expected small extension of the game, they revealed today that the mini expansion, a free 2-mission excursion to Brooklyn's Coney Island, is but a prelude to much more content, which will come out less than 3 weeks later. So again, this is from Steven Totilo, again from Gotaku. I apologize to Mr. Totilo if I last name shouldn't, because I'm Spanish speaker, but the new expansion was called Warlords of New York. So they're giving you a small mini map, small expansion for free. Not really free because you bought the game. So, and then a new expansion called Warlords of New York, which goes back to the original game, which was set in New York City, for $30, and called Warlords of New York.
And I think they're definitely trying to push push probably this new DLC, because that reminded me of a news story I just kind of passed by that says the Division 2 is nearly free on PlayStation Store right now. So uh, Joseph Yondan at a PlayStation Lifestyle writes that you can get either the PlayStation 4 version or the Xbox One versions on their respective digital stores for only $2.99 right now. So that's a low entry fee if you haven't bought the base game. So the $30 expansion, is it?
Yeah.
So you can get I guess you could jump in, I guess, and get that new expansion for low price of like $33.
Heck, you gotta keep that game alive. It's a service, a live service. So talking about games that are supposed to be single player but also are live services, hackers are dropping violent two-headed skeletons into Red Dead Online. This news brought by Sax Wizen, and I apologize for messing up. Essentially, hackers are creating, and I'm gonna put this because it's just the graphics to this. If you get the link, it basically it's a gif of somebody just having a fist fight with a two-headed skeleton. So what's happened essentially that hackers are getting into Red Dead Online. This is not single player. This is hacking Red Dead Online and introduce two-headed skeletons to the sessions. And these aggressive skeletons started popping up in random games over the last few days, surprisingly attacking unsuspecting players. They're not part of anything official by Rockstar, at least they're acknowledging. In fact, this is an asset that already existed, but got animated. Yeah. It says this two-headed skeleton is an original modded creature. In fact, it has been in the game since launch. It can be found on the wreckage of a traveling circus freak show where someone who has two heads similarly became trapped and died. All that remains of the game is a skeleton, the game skeleton model that is now being used to attack random players. I mean, on one hand, yeah, you could die if one of these skeletons starts attacking you, and that would be bad, at least for me anyway. But on the other hand, it's like, modding makes things interesting. It's like, yeah, it's.
I mean, it's sort of like Red Dead hasn't gone there before with that Red Dead like zombie expansion.
Yeah, but that was the official thing. This is somebody who said, okay, let's take a model animated within the online game and make it aggressive so that it attacks everybody.
But I'm saying it's not like lore breaking. It's not like, oh no. Immersion breaking.
Well,
zombie skeleton.
Yeah. Talking about new games and new things, Stardew Valley creators working on 2 new games. I think we talked about this last year, but it's another update. One project set in the same world. This is from Andy Schock. I guess I didn't mess up that name. One project set in the world of Stardew Valley, but it's in farming game, while the other ones will tie into it in some way. Eric Barone has been years working on Stardew Valley, shepherding it from in Greenland in 2002 to 10 million copies sold in 2020. That's what I call, 8 years, 10 million copies. So roughly about 2 million or so per year. Also, Eric Barone, also known as Concerned Ape. That's what I heard about 13 little year ago when Barone said that he put an announced project on hold so he could focus on the farm. So for us, all those who love, like myself, love Stardew Valley and like to see more of this quality content, yeah, we might get new games that are in universe and related to Stardew Valley. Okay, let's say based games coming up soon, and soon probably next 2 to 3 years, because Concerned Ape is himself and I think a handful of other people. We set on the same planet as Stardew Valley, but it's in a sequel or expansion. But we'll see. But I will say this: I replayed Stardew Valley about a week ago, and I basically did a quick run that took me about a week. And they keep adding little stuff. Like there's one scene where I married a villager, and then the villager saved me a cutscene from an attack from a monster, and then the tomb of that monster, because I basically decided we should just bury the monster after it got killed. There's a tomb, and then when you go by, you go to the tomb and says, "This is where so and so saved me from this monster." So there's just little things that they added, new zones, new dungeons. So yeah, and of course, it's a game that can be easily modded. So talk about expansions and other exploration. And I'm talking about this because I'm, as you probably know, you just watch me play this game last 2 months or so, month and a half. I love BattleTech, the game, but BattleTech, the game, will no longer have any more expansions. This is what the Harebrained Schemes is saying. With BattleTech expansions complete, Harebrained Scheme is focusing on 2 brand new projects written by Fraser Brown on PC Gamer. According to Mitch Gittleman, thanks to the community for supporting while teasing what's coming on. This is quoted from the PC Gamer article. Thanks again for your support over the last 4 years of development. Together, HBS and our 55,000 backers delivered the first turn-based tactical mech warrior experience in over 20 years. Our game has earned a lot of awards and accolades, and we are very proud that we've been able to accomplish together. Success allows us to continue supporting BattleTech with 9 free updates and 3 big expansions. BattleTech is not being abandoned, however. Another free updates come on this month, and while it will be the last, the tool will continue to maintain customer support. Following, more detail will come in later, but for now we know the Harebrained Schemes working with 2 brand new non-BattleTech projects. Fraser Brown speculates that it might be a Shadowrun game, but unlikely. Basically, Harebrained Schemes has been in charge of taking old FASA, that's FASA, RPG and board game properties, Shadowrun and BattleTech, and turning them into video games, tactical games. Love the Shadowrun games. I certainly love the BattleTech game. So they did another game in between, which wasn't very successful. Sort of disappeared. But well, I hope for the best for them. It's a time and place for everything to end, right? Which is the thing we're going to talk about today later on. So, yeah. We're going to say something? Sorry.
Yeah, I was going to say, at least like I think at some point, you might be saddened by the fact that they're not like working on any more expansions and stuff for a game. But I think at some points, like, it's good for them to kind of step back. It's like, okay, we're done with this game. It's finished, and walk away and start something new.
Pretty much. Talking about walking away. Again, another article by Fraser Brown an hour ago. Need for Speed is returning to Criterion. The Burnout Studio is driving the series again. This is EA taking. After 7 years, the studio Ghost Games and Need for Speed series is being passed back to Criterion's previous developer. Ghost Games, meanwhile, has been rebranded as EA Gothenburg, an engineering support studio that will assist in other games. Yeah. How many people got fired after that one? And it's an engineering support studio that will assist in other games. Yeah, we've seen this pattern before as well. Guess they're not giving up on that old engine of theirs. Ghost Games has been looking after the series since 2013 Need for Speed Rivals, which is with help from Criterion. It was a solid though not remarkable entry, followed by a remake of the original that would have probably been good. Most of the performance issues and problems stemming from being always online. And on and on and on. So I guess EA is just sort of bouncing back and forth between studios, as they often do with these franchises, just to keep them alive. Again, that's another point of contention that's important to note as forward, because we're probably going to talk about that as well when it comes to our subject of the day. And finally, news. Well, before we transition to the subject, EA has jacked up the price of lots of old games on Steam. Remember when we talked about the fact that a lot of games were going back or staying on Steam from EA?
Yeah.
Like, why are they doing this if they have their own thing? Well, guess what? EA is putting the price back on. SimCity 4, Dragon Age, and more are now pricier outside the US. Again, this is from Fraser Brown, article. It might be just returning to Steam after a long hiatus, but many of its older games have been continuing to be sold on the platform for years. Yesterday, Steam users started reporting that a significant number of them had jumped in price. Seems that regional prices have been hit, with the US prices remaining the same. Dragon Age Origins Ultimate Edition, for instance, is now $24.99, and this is in pounds, a £5 increase. One of the most ridiculous leaps is in City 4 Deluxe Edition. A 16-year-old game now costs £17 and 99 pence, nearly double its previous price. But this is SimCity, so if you buy the new SimCity with all the expansions, it probably costs you like £300 99 pence. So, I mean, really, it's SimCity. I wouldn't say, but Dragon Age Origins, which by the way you should not buy on Steam. Always buy these all games. I don't get paid by GOG, but GOG tries to make it so that the games actually work on you. About it, yeah. So yeah, even old games, which if EA were smart, would just keep. And also, it increases in UK, Canada, Europe, Brazil, and Russia. You know,
it's
leave a well like alone.
Is this like a, I don't know, like a platform convenience fee?
I guess in a disguise. I think it's a disguised platform convenience. It's like, oh, hey, we got this great sales on Origin, right? Yeah. Go buy it there. Oh, you want to buy it on Steam? Okay. We'll let it have. And oh, by the way, they're not in the US, because I suspect that Steam users in the US will get very riled up very quickly about this. Yeah, EA mocking up. Non-US prices for games on Steam. Because, of course, and because Steam, the way Steam works, Steam doesn't care. I don't say they can claim that they have it on the library. So that's, because they let, sellers dictate their own pricing. And example, in some cases, the prices are now double what they are on Origin, though some of them are already more expensive on Steam before the price hike. So it's not like EA is bringing them more in line with original pricing on its own platform. Whatever the reason, they might want to you might want to shop around if you're planning on buying something from Steam. And by shopping around means check out Origins, because that's what they want to do. So I guess they want to cover all their bases, but they still want people to be funneled into Origin. This is a very dishonest way to do it. That's just like.
So let's see, Dragon Age Origins, the Ultimate Edition is $30. I have to find the Origin.
Yeah.
Let me dig up that launcher that I never launched, and I'm sure it's going to need an update because
I have to. Oh, bad.
Because no, gotta keep that currently up to date for some reason.
I mean, I can launch Origins by way of my GOG launcher. So that's that. I don't do it because
let's see.
I don't play anything on that anymore.
Oh, no, Dragon Sphere, not Dragon Age. Come on. So it's $20 on GOG versus $30
on Steam.
On Steam, and Origin's still updating. Oh, almost there. Line's almost full. Now it's installing. And then it does this all the time. Oh, what's your account again? Because it's not like I'm the only user on here.
This doesn't surprise me. But while we wait, Chabamon, to get his update on what is, I can inform you, first two news about Anthem is that as of last Friday, this is by Ethan Gach. Sorry. I'm sorry.
$25.
So 25 on Origin, 20 on GOG, and 30 on Steam.
Yes.
I guess it's not exclusive to non-US pricing. Or it was always, they put it back when they left it at 30 and never took it down, never adjusted it. Adjusted it in GOG and
wait a minute, I think I could be wrong. This actually might just no. So it's $25 for just the bundle of expansions. It's not even the ultimate for age. Oh wait, here we go. Ultimate details. I guess I own a
version of the game.
I guess because I'm trying to. It just keeps taking me to my game library.
Yeah, Origin.
Like,
talking
hey,
about,
what if?
Talking about things that don't change. Anthem still hasn't taken down its Christmas decoration either. This again, Ethan Goach saying that Anthem most recent update came out near the end of January. It fixed some bugs and shortened the wait times for the game's added time trial races. One thing it didn't want to do was bring down the end of Anthem Ice Tide Celebration. Jesus Christ, that's one of the most basic MMO things. Seasonal things have to be put and taken down seasonally.
Ultimate one is also $30
on Origin.
On Origin,
it's cheaper in GOG.
Yep.
I guess that's where they sell the most. Afford. So this is the thing. And why are we talking about this? Because BioWare plans a substantial reinvention of Anthem.
And I guess the whole thing with the Christmas decorations is they did intentionally extend the time this holiday festival thing is supposed to go on, but I mean, I'm not sure why. Like, was there some sort of like issue with the servers that people couldn't log on and play the game? But I didn't see any news stories of, oh no, I can't play Anthem on Christmas.
Yeah.
Or I don't know, like I heard something about them patching something, and I almost wonder if like, oh, we couldn't remove it because it might cause bugs, so we're just gonna leave it on for now until we can figure out how to remove the Christmas decorations without breaking the game or something.
Which is saying a lot. World of Warcraft has been doing all kinds of seasonal things forever. And
yep.
I mean, sometimes it happens, but not really breaking. But let's talk about our old friend of the program, sarcastically. Studio head head of studio of BioWare, Casey Hudson, who in a blog post confirms a Kotaku report from November. Over the coming months, we'll be focusing on long-term redesign of the experience, especially working on reinvent the core gameplay loop with clear goals, motivating challenges, and progression with meaningful rewards. While preserving the fun of flying and fighting in a vast science fantasy setting. Hudson wrote in the post, and to do that properly, we'll be doing something we like to have done more than time around, giving a focused team the time to test and iterate, focusing on gameplay first. Where have I heard that before? Gameplay first. I mean, a lonely commentator on the internet, would never, ever have suggested that gameplay should come first. I mean, the pure hubris of suggesting that. I would not do that. Why would I do that? But of course, Mr. Hudson is saying it. I guess it must be true. Yes, BioWare is going back to Anthem, and I guess they're trying to save Anthem from itself.
Yeah. They're trying to No Man's Sky it. I'm waiting for that to become like a term. Like, let's No Man's Sky this game.
The internally Kotaku in November talked about this, and internally is referred as Anthem 2.0 or Anthem Next. Well, I mean, it's such an inspired title.
Uh, yeah, it's not like we haven't had Evolve 2.0, and that turned out good for, was it Turtle Head Games or
Yeah.
Turtle Rock Games?
Here's a quote, by the way. Just I'm gonna dump the whole thing on my chat because I can do that. Uh, yeah, it's a thing, and I'm like, oh dear, oh dear, dear, dear. Yeah, because okay, here's the thing. Let my take on it. This is how we want to talk. This is my final point. I'm going to start with my
Wait,
conclusion and work backwards. Let Anthem die, please. Just take it out behind the shed, put a bullet in the back of its the proverbial brain. Just move on. But we know
and
Bioware can't do that.
yeah, but they've done this before. We were talking about before the show that they actually had I guess like before it was a term, a live service game in development called Shadow Realms. From just reading the Wikipedia, it was supposed to be this weird action role playing game that designed to be an episodic 4 versus 1. So it almost sounds like
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 Prey. It sounds like
like
Prey.
Evolve.
Like Evolve. Yeah, that's what happened and that's what happened with Evolve. Evolve collapsed.
If it's gonna be something weird, I remember seeing trailers for it. It's supposed to be something weird, like I don't know, like people from Earth somehow go into like this other realm where there's magic and stuff, and I don't know, they're like D&D role playing characters, and I don't know. I just remember seeing the trailers were interesting, and then the game just kind of disappeared. I guess it was supposed to be it seemed to be like this franchise that EA was working on.
Mm-hmm.
That it's supposed to be a free to play game, and so that's already like a red flag right there. And this was there was even like a sort of like a tie-in sequel game, something called Breach, that was being developed by a different studio, uh, former at EA at a developer, like a different studio was working on this game called Breach, which was supposed to be initially became planned. So I guess they So I oh no, so I guess they scrapped the Shadow Realms and then they try to kind of turn it into Breach, but then they scrapped it again.
Mm.
So it's not like BioWare hasn't canceled games before.
Yeah. But here's the thing. I think that this time, and this is sort of the old talk about the latest game that Bioware is working on or is going to deliver, the last roll of the die for Bioware, right? And it becomes truer and truer every single time. And I think this is proof of that, that they cannot say, oh, we're just going to abandon Anthem, because if we do, we don't have anything until Dragon Age or whatever comes out, and that makes our bosses feel like they can just go, well, we don't need you anymore.
The other thing, the less cynical me wants to say that they want to, I guess, not leave the game in as such a sour note. But I mean, on it, like, here's what I don't understand. You have Mass Effect Andromeda, which was awful, but it still has this fan following. It still piggybacks off of this franchise that's so beloved. And they had absolutely like no quorums dropping support for that game. Where I think if they actually tried to overhaul Mass Effect Andromeda, worked on a good like better story expansions, especially with the Quarian arc, like I think BioWare could have turned it around. Anthem, on the other hand, is so outside their wheelhouse. No one cares about this franchise. I don't know if it's because follow I don't follow people that seem like they would like Anthem.
Yeah.
But I have not seen any fan art for Anthem. I have not seen any kind of like love and appreciation for Anthem. I'm sure it's out there, but the fact that I haven't stumbled across it is kind of telling. I mean, I can think of maybe a few other franchises that maybe I haven't seen, like the Star Wars or Republic or Jade Empire fan art, but since I don't really know those games, I guess I wouldn't really know.
Yeah, I mean they're old enough as well that whatever, that sometimes the I mean, that's one of the things. Talk about KOTOR. There's been talk about KOTOR coming back,
remaster or like a reboot.
But the talk is that it won't be handled by BioWare.
Nope, it'll be someone else.
Which, we talked about Criterion before. EA has a long history of keeping the franchise and even keeping it alive, but just throwing it to one studio or another, right? Okay, you work on it, which means there is no guarantee that even the so-called franchises that are so tied to BioWare, like Mass Effect and Dragon Age, will remain with BioWare, especially BioWare Edmonton.
Which, of course, means that, ergo, why do we need BioWare?
Exactly. Why don't we just amalgamate it with somebody else? Why don't we just break it up, whatever?
Let's Mythic Studios it. Like, just
exactly. There's
have
no
it
need.
Absorbed into... I'm trying to think of... No, Visceral. Some other studios they own now. Just have it absorbed and renamed, not BioWare.
Yeah, EA North, EA Canada, EA Edmonton, EA whatever, right? Whatever they want to call it. This is nothing new. It's happened before. And I think this is, they have Casey Hudson, who was worked very much, especially in Mass Effect. Is like, now I'm in charge. I need to tell my bosses that we're still viable. And we're still in the era of the, of the looter shooter, MMO light, game as service, whatever you want to call this era.
Yeah, and because going back to Andromeda, they stopped support for the single player, but they actually did keep support going for the multiplayer, which of course has microtransactions to it.
There's also the fact that we're in 2020. A game like a service is one of those games that will be perfect to carry on from one generation to the next of consoles. So BioWare wants to be positioned to have a game that will be on those consoles. They don't have anything. Whatever it's going to come up in the future is still a couple of years away, right? So it's like, oh, we're going to have, one of the big successes was the fact that one of the killer apps for all the way back to the Xbox 360 was original Mass Effect. So they've had, significant games come up for each generation of consoles. Dragon Age Inquisition was the title that bridged 360 to Xbox X. That's
the Xbox One.
Xbox One, yeah, there's so many X's, and PlayStation 4. So they want to keep that tradition going. So it's like, if we don't support Anthem, then we're not going to have anything, and then our bosses...
Maybe they'll... I wonder if they would port that over to... Well,
they will, because of service. They have to.
Well, I guess the infrastructure, if what we've been hearing is true, that it's going to essentially be backwards compatible, I guess they definitely want to, just so that they can keep their name about. But I mean, Black Friday, this is how bad this game is. Black Friday, this game was selling for $5.
Yeah.
Like, that's like, sure, I'll add Anthem for $5 to my cart so I can bump it up to whatever spending cap before I get free shipping, because otherwise it'd be like $6 for shipping.
Yeah. I mean, and I talked about this before. The problem with Anthem is a problem BioWare. All these problems. Anthem is yet another example of the problems that BioWare has accumulated over the years. As it grew, as it got consumed by EA, etc., etc. Some of them are from BioWare itself. Some of the problems are from EA, right? Post-EA position during Mass Effect 2 development, Dragon Age Origin development. One, BioWare always has problems when they are trying to just have filler, right? Either in the past they would just pass the game to somebody else, and I know a lot of people are gonna, if they listen to this, they're gonna go like, "Well, you're wrong because this is a great game." Whatever. It's like, I disagree. When they pass KOTOR to KOTOR 2 to another studio, which happens to be developers in Vegas and all that, and the game wasn't as great, right? And that was a game, and that game existed so that not EA, because they were not acquired by EA, but that the license was still being worked on, right? And with Dragon Age, when they needed a filler, it became Dragon Age 2, Again, I know you like Dragon Age 2, and it has a dedicated fan base. But it's not necessarily the best of the games in the series.
No.
For a lot of reasons I discussed in the past.
I mean, did they intentionally like pass Dragon Age or not Dragon Age, Baldur's Gate to like other studios that
No, I think that with Baldur's Gate was that the license was really with
Wizards of the Coast, and they just farmed it out.
Yeah, they farmed it out. So no, I mean, it means Dungeons and Dragons. So and Wizards of the Coast has another story where they fought and won a lawsuit to get the rights, publication rights back from Atari, whoever happens to have the name of Atari, and that happened like 6 years ago. So now all the games that are being released are, under license directly from Wizards of the Coast, and they don't give an exclusive license to anybody to distribute. I don't want to go through that process again. And now Baldur's Gate 3 is in development, so
by Larium Studios,
same people that made Divinity C and Divinity C. Yeah, the series of Divinity games. I blanked out on the actual term.
Just as Divinity. There's a bunch of Divinity games.
Yeah. Last two being pretty successful Kickstarter games. And every time, and one could argue that Anthem was also kind of filler as well. Not Anthem, but Andromeda. More like, we need to put a game out there to keep this franchise alive. Truly, it wasn't even done by the main studio. It was done by the Montreal studio with all the problems with that.
Their DLC studio.
Yeah, DLC studio. In kind of felt like a very extended DLC, right? Kind of thing, like just stringing a bunch of stuff together. In those games, they always suffer from quality. So they have a high mark, and then when they don't put the same effort, they kind of peters out, if not crashes altogether. That's a problem. And I think Anthem kind of feels like, oh, we need a project. We need to have something. And Anthem always felt, or everything we talked about in the past in the podcast, has always felt like it was the project that you have because you need to have something, a filler project, even though it was a part of an existing franchise. Second, BioWare never really says they're sorry.
Mm-hmm.
They will say, and I think in this article, Casey Hudson seems like, "Oh, we listened to the people. Yeah. We done this. But they never say, hey, listen, we." And without a clear analysis and sort of mea culpa, you really can't go forward because there's no real analysis. Yeah, go ahead.
And it might be for legal reasons too, because if they admit fault, then they might open themselves to lawsuits because they're essentially admitting wrongdoing in some way.
Maybe, but I don't think a lot of people would sue, right? It's like, oh, you got a bad game. Well, yeah, it's a bad game, right? We don't bat 100, right, or 1,000. And you can make the arguments like, if you get sued for every bad game that you make, then nobody would even try to make games, right?
See, well, I'm not entirely sure if they haven't, have they gotten sued for the EA trailer or the E3 trailer that was completely faked?
The bullshots, yeah. There was a lawsuit that was against several companies. I don't think it included EA, but I don't think it included Anthem. By the time Anthem, the trailers came out, that lawsuit had been resolved, and the U.S. court found that...
wasn't that brought about by aliens, colonial marines?
And the person who brought the lawsuit lost. In essence, the court said that advertising is, by definition, a lie. Right? It's designed to gin up the product, right? And if you have any course of action, it would be on the state-by-case basis. Like in Puerto Rico, for example, which is a territory, if you do false advertising, $10,000 for a piece of advertising. But that's a local law. But under federal law, there's no punishment for bullshit.
Yeah, that's. I wonder if Blizzard is in trouble in Puerto Rico.
Yeah, but even the fine, it's pretty small. I mean, it's more for local business. It's basically that law is where you get a coupon and you go to the store and it says, oh, this is going to be this product, for so on and so forth. It's like $5.95 and it's $7.95. It's like false advertising. Come on, give me the real price. Sell it for $5.95. Like, okay, we can sell for this one person $5.95 and lose $2 or $3, or get a $10,000 fine.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, that's what it's there for. It's for small businesses and physical sales. I never seen that law being used for digital sales, and I doubt very much for that. Anybody who would be interested wouldn't have the money and work. And so, but if you don't, I mean, there's ways to admit faults without outright saying, okay, we screwed up. Like, oh no, this you can dissect the games. Because I seen a lot of people make dissections of the games on YouTube and Gama Sutra and other places. Like, oh, this worked, this didn't work. Now you can do it in a way that says we understand what the problems are, and we're working on it, as opposed to we listened to not even the complaints.
We just listened to feedback.
And what's the feedback and who's giving it to you? Because you listen to feedback from Andromeda and for Mass Effect 3.
Yeah, oh my god, I love the relationships. I love the
and you gave us Citadel DLC. By the way, Chapelmont did a wonderful series on Citadel DLC, which can express almost all my points about it better than I would, and because I'm not going to replay
it. Yeah, a lot of it felt like a lot of Andromeda felt like Citadel DLC, like the game.
Yeah, for whatever money you were willing to pay for it, which I only paid $20 for Andromeda, which is probably what it for me was worth.
I paid $10.
Yeah,
on eBay.
And finally, and this should have been the second point as opposed to the third point, but I forgot about the third point until now. BioWare Magic. Which has a lot of the sunk cost fallacy involved into it. That is, up to this point, even their failures have been something of a success. And no matter what they do, they still put out a product, no matter how much people have to work and how many hours. At the end of the day, you come up with something.
I mean, but like, I think of Dragon Age Inquisition was pretty buggy, but not when it launched, but not meme buggy, I guess, like Andromeda was, which is probably why they've been able to get away with it.
Yeah, but it's kind of, I mean, Andromeda was pretty buggy. It had some bugs, some crash bugs.
Of course, yeah, but then of course all the bugginess then turned into a meme at that point with just the number of hilarious bugs, and that's not even counting the facial animations.
And they did try to fix some of that, but even then, all those bugs were sort of superficial. They were the visual representation of the lower quality of Andromeda, right? It's like, well, we can fix those. And then get that BioWare Magic, and you add a couple of more points, like the sunk cost fallacy, and the fact that we live in, over a decade of patching culture. The idea that you can, which is sort of what enables the whole games as a service, because you can release now, fix later. But Anthem is showing that a simple patch is not going to fix it. And that comes, this is always been my argument when it comes to the patching code. Sometimes there comes a point where you just have to take your game and just put it out of its misery, because it's not good, right? The reputation that you have will doom whatever you're trying to do, right? It has worked in the past. It worked with Final Fantasy 14, but literally they just made a completely new game.
Yeah, I was going to say
Final Fantasy 14. Right?
That wasn't even like an overhaul. That was just like, okay, so let's just scrap this game altogether and start over.
And they did say mea culpa. I read the translations from the Japanese, and they said, you know what? This was not a good game. We need to make a new game, which is something that BioWare can't simply say. They gotta bring themselves to say this.
And I don't know anything about 14, but did they change any of the story at all? Or
I played a little bit of it, but because I didn't have reference to the original 14. And that's another thing. It's like we talked about this earlier. What's the base? Because in games like Final Fantasy, of course, Final Fantasy has a huge people,
yeah, even if it's and even if it's like a a brand new, I guess, Final Fantasy that doesn't exist off a pre-existing Final Fantasy world. It has Final Fantasy in it. It's
Yeah.
made by a studio that's known for Final Fantasy, so it's gonna sell.
Yeah.
And of course, we mentioned it earlier, like, where where's the fan base for Anthem? Like, and if they're there, they can't be very big.
Mm-hmm. There seems to be big enough that they're willing to keep selling
Well,
microtransactions too, but that's about
yeah,
it, right?
but I would have to agree that this whole overhaul thing is probably not so much for the fans; it's for themselves,
Yeah.
just to keep themselves afloat.
The game that you put out there because you need to put something in there, otherwise you're no longer relevant. And we do know how how EA treats their studios that are no longer relevant. Even game studios that seem to be relevant just take it back to the back of the chat. And already heard the gunshots a couple of times. And you know, it's a thing. And also, for example, with No Man's Sky. Okay, No Man's Sky, when it came out, the real problem was that they underpromised, but they overpromised.
They overpromised and
Couldn't
underdelivered.
underdevelop. But there was still a working game there.
Mm-hmm.
It just didn't have the features that they were promising they could deliver. And it certainly had a built-in, very rabid fan base who were not willing to abandon the game no matter what, and defended it, and were very vocal. Agree, which too much, but they were there. And so No Man's Sky coasted on that. As they kept working on the game, they were able to expand on that side. Listen, okay, we know that, and in way, again, they're admitting we did not deliver. Now we're delivering. And the No Man's Sky today doesn't look anything like original No Man's Sky, not because they completely remade the game and in No Man's Sky 2.0, it's just that they kept working at it until it became a good thing. This is more like Star Citizen, which is playable, but it's like in limbo and they keep taking money. I think that seems to be the ultimate form of the game service, where you games of service, where you have something that is out there, it's playable, but as long as it's taking money, nobody cares, right? It's like Knights of the Old Republic, and Star Wars: The Old Republic is still around. People play it. It has a fan base, but I think people, when people talk about Star Wars, they tend to forget about the Star Wars license. I think that's the one game that has allowed EA to maintain the license, because say, hey, look, we still have a game that has Star Wars on it. Disney, don't take the license from it. Well, it's gonna expire in 2022. We'll see what Disney does afterwards or during. So they're probably right now on negotiating, because it takes months, even years, to make sure you lock down a good position for both companies. So
maybe Knights of the Old Republic is like, ooh, let's get this game in development and try to put out something good. So he's like, hey, Disney, see,
but
we
again,
made you all the money.
Yeah, but EA has also killed games in the. I mean, they released another actually well acclaimed single player Star Wars game.
After they canceled one.
Yeah.
A single player Star Wars game that was being made by an acclaimed game developer.
Yeah. And I mean, it's we'll see. I mean, I feel like it's not even a role playing game analogy anymore. It's just a craps table analogy, where BioWare is sort of picking the die and throwing the die, and they don't win big, but they win just enough money to put up the losses.
To stay in the game.
Stay in the game. It's like, yeah, okay, I lost 1,000, but I made 500. If I roll a game, maybe I can make 200 more, but then I lost 1,100, and so I still have money, and I still have more money than I came with, so I could win more money. And Daddy EA is sort of looking like, yeah, okay, this is what you do with your allowance, pal. Come on, really, and it just seems like way, right? And I don't know. I mean, can they survive? Probably, but I think the most, at least from my point of view, and again, we're doing predictions, so take it with as many grains of salt as you can summon, or care to. When you are talking about the future of BioWare, I think what's going to happen is BioWare simply is going to go, quietly into the night, EA is gonna go and
pull it out of bed one night, and then when no one's the wiser, and then
yeah,
take it back to the shed.
and it's like, oh yeah, oh BioWare. Well, we merged that part with that thing and this, and it's like, well, BioWare's no more. So where's BioWare? It's, like, it's gone, man.
EA motive, or
and we're gonna see. Oh, Dragon. Yes, it's gonna be a new Dragon Age, developed by Super Motive Studio, and Mass Effect Florida, developed by System Dynamic Studios.
I don't. Whatever. Yeah, I don't think they'd give it to Respawn.
Yeah, or whatever, right? Or we created a new studio with all BioWare heads, developed this game that they were developing already, and you're like, what about BioWare? It's like, well, sorry, son. I'm afraid you had your time. When we see Casey Hudson's CCV on LinkedIn, then we'll know that it's over. It's like, oh, and so that's gonna happen again. The best thing would be to put Anthem out of its misery, but I think the moment you do that, there goes BioWare, because they have nothing. It's gonna take them millions of dollars. They've been developing some of the stuff. Remember, they scrapped an ongoing Dragon Age project already, but they were working on Dragon Age. Anthem came up. Okay, scrap Dragon Age. Let's work on Anthem to get it out the door, and then they started again with Dragon Age. So that means that there's millions upon millions of dollars that have been wasted. Nobody's, you're not getting a product out of it, right? You're not working on it. And of course, and then with everything else, it's what a day. So Chabamon, with that great ending for the podcast, where can we find you in the interwebs?
You can find me at Chapamon pretty much anywhere. I am Chapamon _Aragon on Twitch and Twitter. On Twitter, I did not really have that much of a hand in creating it, but a friend of mine, I lent him a bunch of audio files, and he made a very interesting adult animated video involving Rex and Grunt. It's honestly, it's the Mass Effect 3 Citadel DLC that we all wanted. Only check that out if you're an adult.
Yeah.
And at your own risk. And I pretty much hang out at YouTube under Chapamon.
As always, you can find me here, Lesson Learn 1. If you like what we do here, of course, subscribe, follow, all the good things. We are finishing the Federate Sons career run. We have only about a handful of days left on the career track. And then after that, I think I'm going to go back to The Witcher, because I really want to play an RPG and fantasy and throw fireballs and go sorting and stuff. So if you like that, we do that every mornings, Monday to Friday. Also trying to go back to my old schedule in the afternoons, and of course do some streaming on the weekends. Thank you for coming, and as always, we'll see you. Bye bye, everybody.
Bye.